If you like listening to podcasts as much as we do, you may want to listen to us while you're working out or going for a run or doing a number of other things. Maybe you're grocery shopping, or maybe you listen to us while you're supposed to be working. Whatever it is, if you want to add a beat in the background for some extra motivation, you should check out this new app called Podbeat.
Podbeat is a free mobile app that lets you add any beat style to any podcast for your workout. It's easy to use and free to download in the App Store. Sometimes podcasts may lose your attention because you're just listening to someone talk. With Podbeat, podcasts are a lot more fun.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. And the other thing that I really like about Podbeat is that you can choose from a bunch of different beats. So it's not like you're listening to the same thing over and over. There are a ton of options. Some that I prefer myself. I really like the funk beat, which you can hear in the background right now. And another one that's one of my favorites is the trap beat.
I agree. I love the trap beat as well. I also really like that for each beat I pick, I can change the treble, the BPM, the volume, and the bass levels. I'm like my own DJ. It's a lot of fun. Definitely check out Podbeat in the App Store or also on Google Play Store for Android users. Okay, on to the show. Welcome to Rewind, Rewatch. I am Andrene.
I'm Joel.
And we are siblings rewatching 90s movies and then discussing them to see how well they aged.
Also, if you haven't listened to any of the other episodes by now, like, obviously you need to go back. Listen to this one first. Like, play this one out, give it a shot, see how you feel, and then
go back.
Yes, of course.
So today we have our very first listener episode.
Yay! Shout out to the listeners for requesting this 90s film.
Yeah.
And what do we have today? What movie did we
actually
rewatch?
got multiple requests for this, believe it or not. And today we will be reviewing the 1998 movie Cant Hardly Wait.
Cant Hardly Wait. Starring Jennifer Love Hewitt, who was big in the 90s.
Oh, yeah. Like she had the I Know What You Did Last Summer movies. And also she was on Party of Five through 95 to 99. So this movie came out in 98. So at this point, she was already pretty popular because the summer movies came out in 97. And Party of Five, like I said, was 95 to 99. So she was a hot girl. She was an it girl.
It's funny because when I think about Can't Hardly Wait, I always think about Jennifer Love Hewitt. But then I can't remember, like, who else was in that movie.
Same.
There's a lot of people who are in the movie we'll get to in a second, but a lot of them were not main characters.
Correct.
And looking at a lot of the other main characters, the guy who plays Preston, the girl who plays Denise, the guy who plays Mike Dexter.
Yeah. I don't know.
None of them are big names.
Yeah.
Like, these are people that I don't really recognize. And Jennifer Love Hewitt is, I mean, we'll also get into this. She's like the focal point of the movie.
Yes.
But she's not really.
But not really. Yeah.
Like, she's not actually doing a lot. It's like people talking about her. Yeah,
yes.
Exactly.
Yes. So I guess we'll say normally we talk about why we chose it, but again, like we said before, you guys chose it. So we wanted to make sure that we were listening to you and giving you the content that you guys, crave. So here we are.
And I think this is a perfect time to also say that we are looking for more suggestions from folks that are listening to this pod that are interested in what we're doing on the Rewind Rewatch. So if you are listening to this and you're like, oh, they should review this movie, or it would be funny to see them talk about that movie, you can always request them either via email at rewindrewatch1990s@gmail.com. You can also request them via Instagram or Twitter at RR90spod. So,
all right.
With that said, let's get into Can't Hardly Wait.
All right. So, I guess I can start, or you can, depending on what you would like. How would you summarize this movie in one sentence?
Oh, yes. I forgot about the one movie, the one sentence summary. I should have had something prepared. It's actually more fun when I don't.
Okay.
So I'm gonna try to freestyle it off the top of my. Yeah, I'm gonna try to hot seat it. The senior class. Okay, no, I'm starting over. I'm starting over. wait, hold on, stop. A nerdy high school kid has a crush on a popular girl and attempts to profess his love at the final high school party before he leaves for college.
Yeah, that's pretty much the basis of the movie. I concur with that. All right. So
Took me a second.
Yeah, but you got there. So do we want to start with the opening scene? I kind of want to talk about that, or do we want to go into who's in the movie first?
Yeah, let's talk about who's in the movie because there was a number. Like I said, there weren't any like famous people in the main cast. The only other person who is like super recognizable is Seth Green.
Right.
Where's Seth Green even from? I don't remember how I know Seth Green. I just feel like I know
he's just one of
Seth
those
Green.
guys that I feel like was just around in the 90s. But you're right. I honestly couldn't tell you where he came from.
He's just like in random stuff. But I don't really remember. I mean, obviously, like he did a lot with like Robot Chicken, but you know that was not his face was not on any of that stuff. But yeah, I don't really know. Like, oh, he was on Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Oh,
that's right.
I missed that completely.
I completely forgot about that. But yeah, Seth Green's in this movie. He's probably the most famous of the lead cast members outside of Jennifer Love Hewitt.
Yes.
There's like a number of like random cameos from people who are either not super famous yet or I don't really know. Like Jason Segel's randomly in this movie. He's only in like one scene.
He was not popular yet.
You got to think this was probably around the same time as Freaks and Geeks, which also wasn't popular.
It wasn't that big.
It like kind of like. But then there's a band that's playing at the house party, and then I'm like, wait a second, that's Breckin Meyer and Donald Faison. What are they doing in this movie? I don't remember them being in this movie at all. Then like Jerry O'Connell shows up for like one scene randomly.
Oh yeah. He was like the athlete. He was the guy who graduated from high school the year before.
Right.
He came back.
Which is like perfect casting.
Yeah, that was great.
Save the Last Dance guy's in this?
Yes, his name.
Sean Patrick Thomas?
Yes, it's not Save the Last Dance guy.
Wow.
Although, to be fair, that it's exactly how I described him before I Googled his name.
Yes, of course.
So, yeah, he's the token black guy out of like the cool athlete, group.
Yeah.
You got to have one.
Yeah.
At least one of us. So he's there for that. Melissa Joan Hart.
Yes.
Now, this is the biggest one.
Yes.
Like, she was the yearbook girl. She basically was running around the party begging and pleading everybody to please sign her yearbook. Every school had one. You know who they were. That was her. And as we know, she was on Sabrina the Teenage Witch, which was a huge show. So that was one of the ones that I feel like
TGIF.
Yeah. Must watch TV. Must watch.
Jenna Elfman.
Yes.
Jenna Elfman is randomly in kind of like a small but kind of a big part in this movie. Like she kind of like is the voice of reason amongst these idiot teenagers. And she plays a stripper that's dressed up as an angel.
Yeah. Exotic dancer.
Yes, of course. Dancer who gives advice to our nerdy Preston. And
did you notice Jamie Presley?
I did notice Jamie Presley, and I also noticed Tamala Jones.
Yes.
Both of whom played the Jock's girlfriends.
The girlfriends.
And there's also a Selma Blair cameo. Did you catch that one?
I saw Nev Campbell.
Selma Blair.
It wasn't Nev?
No, it wasn't Nev. Selma Blair is the one from Cruel Intentions.
It is. Why did I say Nev Campbell?
I'm not sure, but it wasn't Nev Campbell. It was Selma Blair.
Oh, my God.
Which is also like, I feel like that had to be around the same timeline. I think that's the other thing about this movie with the cameos. Like, I can't tell if these people were like famous and then like doing cameos in this movie as like a wink, wink, nod, nod, or like they just weren't famous yet and they're in this movie before they popped. I couldn't tell. And 1998's like kind of like right in the middle of when a lot of these people became popular. So there were a lot of those people. But the actual main cast is a lot of people that you didn't really see again.
No idea who they are, for the most part. I mean, although like I feel like I've seen Ethan Embry before. Like his face looked very familiar, but it also was like if you asked me what other film he was in, I would not be able to tell you. So I don't know. Maybe this movie just stuck out in my brain, and that's where I know him from. Actually, apparently he was in Sweet Home Alabama. So. Not a movie that I've seen multiple times, but perhaps I saw it here or there and his face stuck out to me. But anyway, Let's. I think we talked about all the people that kind of showed up.
And for the record, have you seen Can't Hardly Wait before rewatching it?
Yes, I have seen it before, but it's not one of the films that I've watched routinely. So I would say maybe 2 times prior to this one. So I knew the gist of it, but there was quite a bit of it that I had forgotten. Outside of all the different cameos that were in it, a lot of, as far as like what aged poorly in the quotes, I did not recall. So that will be interesting to discuss as we get to it. So let's go ahead and talk about the first scene. So what I liked about it was essentially it opens up, they're at graduation. You're seeing flashes of these high school kids with their gowns and their caps on. And we're hearing like rumblings of the school gossip. So people are saying things like, "Oh, so and so throwing a huge party tonight. Well, will you be there?" Apparently, there's some guy who's naked under his gown for some reason. So people were talking about that. And then, of course, the other big thing was the fact that Mike and Amanda have broken up.
And everybody's talking about this.
Everybody.
So you kind of get a clue of like they're the it couple. They're 2 popular kids. Blah 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 blah.
Exactly. So we find out, like Mike is like the varsity athlete. He plays basically all of the sports. And Amanda is the high school cheerleader. She's like homecoming queen, the typical it girl in high school. And then we meet the main character who's like pining over Amanda. And he's
Preston.
Yeah, he finds out that they break up and he turns to his best friend who's a female. And he's like, "Hey, did you hear? Like, they broke up." And she's like, "Okay." He's like, "I gotta go to this party tonight because she's probably gonna be there." And she's like, "We don't go to parties. This is dumb. I don't want to go." But he basically persuades her because he's like, "This is my one chance to tell Amanda how I feel before I have to leave."
So Preston's best friend, Denise, she's very much giving Daria. Like,
yes,
she's like
I love
very
her.
much like, "I'm over this. All these people are idiots." She has a very like, I don't even know what the right word is, but Daria is the best example I could think of someone who's just like kind of above the fray. She doesn't kind of engage in the social stratification of like whatever's happening in a high school. She's just kind of just like,
she's
I'm not
conforming.
engaged. Yeah, she's not engaged in whatever's happening. But she has this friend who has this super crush on Amanda Beckett, and she decides that she's going to accompany him to this party that she has no interest in being at. Which I have a lot of I have a lot of opinions about that.
Her going to the party at all?
Yeah, no, and yes, but also like how she showed up at the party.
Do you want to talk about that? We can.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like, okay, I don't like these people. We finally graduated. I don't really want to be at this party, but I'm going there. Why?
To support my best friend.
Okay, so if I know I'm going there to support my best friend, and my best friend wants to go to this party, why?
To talk to Amanda.
Yes, and not only to talk to Amanda,
to tell her how he feels,
to profess this crush that he's held on to for 4 years, that he hasn't had the gumption to kind of work up to say. So I feel like going into this party, that should have been
like a wing woman. Like
exactly. Like I feel like she should have showed up as like, I'm gonna support Preston. And if he gets nervous or if he gets cold feet or if he doesn't know what to say, maybe I help him. Maybe I go and talk to Amanda first to kind of bridge the gap.
Girl to girl,
yeah. Like she was just like, "Oh, go figure it out," and then was just sitting on the couch. I'm like, "Bro, you're actually not helping at all.
Why are you even here?
Yeah, exactly. Like, why are you even at this party? Like, it didn't make sense to me."
That's a fair point. Yeah,
I wanted her to like help him more because he struggled for 4 years to tell this girl how he feels. So obviously it's not going to be a walk in the park when he gets to this party. And I feel like her knowing that, why didn't she give him a little bit more? I wanted her to play a little bit more wingman. She wasn't giving me anything.
That's a fair point. So going back to the 4 years, so there's a scene where basically Preston basically describes, how he meets Amanda for the first time. Like he was late for school that day. He had missed the bus. And one of his parents apparently drops him off at school. He's late. It's pouring rain. And he's running up the school steps. He fumbles, drops his books. And then as he bends down to get his books, he looks up and Amanda is showing up for her first day of school. She's new. It's freshman year. And he sees her and he's just like, oh, this girl is gorgeous. So he goes to his first class, which is homeroom or whatever. And of course, the teacher's like, oh, we have a new student today. It's Amanda. She gets seated right next to him. And he talks about his breakfast. And when he starts talking about his breakfast, I was like, oh my God, this is so 90s. A. B, I've definitely done this. And C, it's probably still delicious. Yeah. So in case you're wondering, he was eating a strawberry flavored Pop-Tart. Cold, like right out the packet, just eating it. And Amanda,
do you prefer it out the toaster or do you prefer out the packet?
Out the toaster definitely tastes better, but I also feel like in a rush, out the packet is fine.
Yeah, out the packet still works.
Yeah, like yes.
If I have the time.
It being hot is definitely the better way to eat it, but like it's still good. So how do you feel about the ones that have like no icing? The icing free?
Yeah, I don't even understand what the point of that is. Why would I want an icing free? That doesn't even make any sense.
You still have the filling. They have like
come on.
They have brown sugar, they have s'mores.
At this point it's just a turnover. Like I want a Pop-Tart. Like,
apple turnover?
It's a turnover. Like what are we doing? I want my icing, I want my sprinkles. And I really only need the sprinkles for the strawberry, but I do like brown sugar cinnamon. I do like s'mores. S'mores is good.
Yeah.
But yeah,
the strawberry is like tried and true.
Yeah, tried and true. And if I can toast it up, then that's my preferred my preferred option.
Yeah. So of course he looks over and Amanda has a strawberry Pop-Tart as her breakfast, and he's like, "Oh, that's it." First of all, this guy, when I talk about like he is so set on fate and having a soulmate and her being the one, like it was sickening.
You know who he's giving me?
Who?
He's giving me Ted Mosby.
Oh, yes!
Like, 100%.
Ted Mosby.
Like, I'm watching this movie and I'm like, oh, this is How I Met Your Mother. But,
How I Met Your Mother.
But he's a high school senior. Like, it's the same guy.
Yeah, Ted Mosby was infuriating on that show.
It was way too much.
Every single person he dated, he's like, maybe she's the one. It's like, bro, everybody you meet... Maybe he's a Libra? Because I feel like Libras are like that.
Oh, no.
No shots fired. But I feel like Libras are very much like...
You've had this friend, though. You've had the Ted Mosby
They're
friend.
Libras. That's why I said that. They love. They fall hard. They always see like rainbows and butterflies. Like this is their life.
Too much, man.
Yeah.
And I'm also wondering, like, 4 years, bro?
4 years. He's pining. So to get back to what happened, so he likes her, and of course the teacher says, we need a volunteer to show Amanda around the school. So he's about to raise his hand, but Mike Dexter, is it Dexter?
Mike Dexter, yeah.
Dexter, the jock.
Dex. You're the man, Dex.
God. He raises his hand first, and of course, as of that moment, they become like a couple instantly. And for 4 years, they've been dating, and Preston has lost all chances. His hope is down the drain. And now at this party, he's like, "This is it. This is the moment I've been waiting for in my entire life."
He was waiting for Mike to dump her.
Pretty much.
The day before he leaves for Dartmouth.
And Mike, okay, so this whole thing about Mike breaking up with her was really him dumping her is like, okay, I get it. You want to be free for college or whatever, but then he like basically has his boys promise that they're gonna dump their girlfriends as well, and I was like, bro, why do you care?
Nah, Mike sucks. Mike was
what
also
was that
just being
about?
a hater. Because the whole thing was like, Mike was like, he enjoys being not only the popular guy, but he also enjoys being the ringleader. And so he had like this clique of his jock buddies. Save the Last Dance guy is one of them, and he's like, oh yeah, I dumped her because we're about to go to college. Like, what's in college? There's no more high school girls. There's women. It's college women. And this is one of the quotes that I had to pull out because he's like, it's no more girls. It's women. He said, women with no curfew, women on the pill.
I do remember
Real grown women, bro. Women on the pill.
And of course, like,
so they're like, oh, that does sound pretty good. That sounds a lot better than these high school girls. So he basically makes them, no, he doesn't make them, but he convinces them to like make a pact that they're gonna break up with their girlfriends so that they can all be single, so they can like basically screw around all summer, go to college, and then meet better, hotter,
Right.
more grown women than the girls that they're currently with.
But this pact or plan of Mike's backfires because during the party, the girlfriends are like all boned up for whatever reason.
They're hot and bothered.
Ooh, nice to breathe. For those of you who don't know, I love abbreviations. I call them abbreves.
I did that one just for
and
you.
Joel said hot and bothered, short for hot and bothered, and I love it. Anyway, yeah, the girls were like just like full on making out at the party, and the guys are just like, "Yo, like, what do you want me to do? Like, my girl's parents are out of town for the weekend. We get the whole place to herself. Like, I gotta go over there." So then Mike's kind of like sulking around the party, kind of tight. He goes outside and
We got tickets to see Pearl Jam.
they're really good seats.
Pearl Jam tickets. It's like the perfect like 90s reference right there.
There really is. So he goes outside. He's kind of blown, and then this is where what's his name shows up. That cameo.
Jerry O'Connell.
Jerry O'Connell. Yeah. Yes, thank you. He is basically who Mike Dexter was a year ago. So he used to be like the head varsity football player or whatever. He goes to college. And so Mike's talking to him like, yo, college must be crazy. All these women like falling all over you. And he's like, dude, like it's hard out there. He's like, I couldn't get anybody's number. All the women really want older men. They don't really want to talk to freshmen. Like, he's like, you still dating that girl Amanda, right?
He said they're mad. He said they're mad different. They all intellectual. They all try to talk about all this college stuff and current events.
Right.
Like, come on, bro. Like, they're not like high school girls at all.
At all.
I'm like, yo,
so he's
that's
like,
true.
he's
though.
like, oh, you're still dating that girl Amanda? Like, she's hot. Like, make sure you keep that going. He's like, yeah, we're still together, lying. So now he's like panicking because he's like, I'm about to have like nobody.
He's in the mud. He's in the mud.
Like,
He's in
I'm
a bad
Mike.
spot.
Like, I'm used to getting any girl I want. So now he's like panicking. He goes back to the party. He's like trying to talk to other girls. Like, yeah, you know, I heard you told somebody that you said I was hot. Isn't that true? And they were like, yeah, you know, we did say that. And he's like, yeah. Like, but didn't you tell someone else that you thought we were skanks? And he was like, huh? He told you that? He told you that? And they were like, yeah. And they walked away. He's like, oh, yeah. Okay, cool. So he's finding out like Mike is actually a trash human being. And I'm going to actually ask you a question here because it's like, we briefly mentioned this before in the Jumanji episode, and I think we may have also talked about it in last week's episode about having the nice girl dating the jerk, right?
Of course.
So we have Amanda, who seems to be very sweet, and she dates this guy for 4 years. 4 years.
She talked about it a little bit.
She did. So what were your thoughts on that?
I mean, my thoughts on it are...
Well, first talk about what she said so the audience knows what we're...
Well, she kind of said that, like, she got to a new school. She was new in town as a freshman. She meets Mike. Mike's popular. Mike's hot. She kind of just falls into a relationship with him. And then things just become what they are out of just kind of like... This is kind of what people expect her to do. And she just kind of goes along with it because... Everybody wants to be with Mike. Everybody wants to be popular. Everybody wants to be the it girl. And it kind of fell in her lap.
Yeah.
And so as a result of that, she just never thought about going another way.
You know what I found that's kind of sad about that is, so after the breakup, it's like the girls, well, I guess, so Mike's crew, their girlfriends are like trying to console her, right? They're like, oh my God, you poor thing. Like, don't worry about Mike. And Mike's like not even hot. Like, you know, you're prettier than Gwyneth Paltrow, and your boobs are bigger. Like, okay,
Her boobs are bigger.
I mean, they are bigger, but okay. And they're like, oh, like you're hotter. Like, don't worry about it. You don't even need him. And she's like, guys, like I'm actually, like she actually was surprisingly fine. She was like, guys, like I'm actually.
Well, she was free.
Yeah, so she's like, guys, I'm actually.
She wasn't
fine.
worried about Mike. She was nonplussed about the relationship to begin with. So when they broke up, she was just like, okay, like I don't think she was really like. Oh, I love Mike so much. It was just like, this is cool, and it's high school, and like he's popping, so like whatever.
Right, exactly. But what I found was kind of sad was like the girls are all pining over her, and you could tell like she's not even really into those girls at all. Like she was kind of just like, you guys are all kind of annoying me right now. I'm actually fine. Like leave me alone. And I was thinking to myself like, she's wandering around the party, she's by herself the entire time, and like she has no friends. Like
Yeah,
she
that's a
had
good
like
point.
there was not one person where she could go to confide in that was like legitimately like a friend of hers. Like there was no guy friend, there was no girlfriend, and I was like, so all she had this entire 4 years was being Mike's girlfriend, but she had no real person to confide in. That was sad.
I mean, I think it speaks to like a bigger point that they were also trying to make about the I don't know if the price of fame is probably too big, but like being the popular person in high school, right? Like she was the girl that everybody knew. She was the girl that everybody wanted to be. She was the girl that every guy wanted to be with. But she didn't actually build any meaningful relationships in 4 years.
All.
And even if you look at the relationship that Mike had with his friends,
Mm-hmm.
it was very superficial as well. Even the so-and-so pact that they made with him was also just BS. Like, they didn't keep it. They all stayed with their girlfriends. And then even, like, the whole scene with him and Jerry O'Connell's character where it was like, yeah, like, I was popping in high school, but now I'm trash. So it was like, it was kind of like this whole concept of, and I think even, like, when we think of the Will character, who we haven't talked about yet, we haven't talked about Kenny yet
We'll
either.
get there.
We definitely have to talk about Kenny. But like Will is like the class nerd. He's the valedictorian. He hates Mike because Mike used to always bully him. And that's like kind of was his lot in life for 4 years of high school. And then he goes to this party and he's like the man. And he like gets drunk with everybody. He's like telling stories and he performs on stage and like he's making out with girls. And it's like this whole concept, I think, you know, not to jump the gun in terms of going to the theme, but I feel like they were painting this picture of like who you are in high school or even who people project you to be doesn't necessarily have to be like who you ultimately are. And I feel like that was indicative of Amanda's character as well. It's like she was projected as this person from everybody else, but it wasn't anything that she did or said to say like, I am that person. It was just like what people saw her as, and that just became the story.
Yeah, I know. It just seemed so lonely. Like I was watching, I kept being like, yo, she has nobody.
Yeah.
That's all I could think about the whole movie. I was like, I really pity this girl. I don't want to be here at all.
Can we talk about Kenny?
Okay, so
let's talk about Kenny, my guy.
So when you talk about Kenny,
Seth Green's character,
the first thing so he has this love kit, and the reason why he has this love kit is
who is Kenny? Let's start there because we haven't talked about him at all.
Kenny is one of these white boys. He has two close friends, both white, and they're like very much into the hip hop, like gangster, quote unquote, gangster.
Come on, bitch, why you tripping?
Lifestyle where he's like speaking in Ebonics. He's basically portraying what he thinks like a black hood person would act like the cool, like he thinks it's cool, you know? It's like, oh yeah, like I'm down, I'm hip, I'm this, I'm that. And like the way he talks is like, bro, what are you actually doing? His plan for this party is
y'all fools tripping.
his plan is he's going to find a young woman. And he's going to lie with her in the biblical sense.
Yeah, he has a list of options. He walks into the party. He's like, yo, like I got like 10 joints that I'm gonna like try to attack. Basically, like I got 10 joints. At least one of them is gonna let me hit. The funny thing about Kenny, we meet Kenny in like a convenience store. It's like a 7-Eleven type spot, and he's basically like the class wigger, and like him and his two friends with like the visors and like
oh my God,
they have their hair in twists for whatever reason, even though they're white,
with rubber bands on their head. Oh, don't forget the piece de resistance are the goggles.
He's wearing ski goggles for whatever reason.
The yellow outline.
And the thing that made me laugh isn't even anything that he said, but like as soon as he came on, they started playing like a Busta Rhymes song in the background.
Yes.
It was like Fire It Up by Busta Rhymes. What y'all want to do? Well, you know where you was coming through, me and my crew. And I was like, yo, this is hilarious because there's no hip hop played in the entire movie up to that point. And then they come with the Busta Rhymes straight out the gate. I'm like, yo, this is hilarious.
And I believe he said something like, I'm trying to have sex tonight. This is his first line in the movie.
Yo, I gotta have sex tonight.
And so you're like,
Kenny.
oh, he's that guy.
Yeah, Kenny's hilarious.
Oh, got it. And so in this,
They plucked him straight out of American Pie and just plopped him into
Right.
Cant Hardly Wait, which I'm pretty sure it came out like the same year.
I think it may have. And so like he has this quote unquote love kit that includes like it has like random like lubrications. He has like a sleeve of condoms. I don't know why he needs a sleeve.
There's a Kama Sutra book.
Kama Sutra book. And actually, there's a scene where he's in the restroom and he's trying to practice one of the Kama Sutra positions.
And it's like, bro, this is very illogical. You should have been practicing this
Before.
like well ahead
Before.
of the night that you plan to use these moves. Like, why is it that the day that, because the whole thing is like he's trying to smash. So he has like this list in his head of like, yo, there's
These
10
girls,
options.
yeah.
I'm gonna try to hit all of them. She's going up to different girls. He's
They're
trying to
all
talk
failing.
to them. He goes to this one girl, yo, what's up, baby? What's good? You look mad fine, sugar. Blah, blah. He's saying all these things. He's trash. Nobody wants to talk to him. And
Until
then he finds this one girl who's basically crying over her boyfriend who broke up with her.
he cheated on her. Or she heard through the grapevine he cheated on her.
And then she's like, I'm so distraught, blah, blah. I'm going to get back at him.
Mm-hmm.
Yo, I swear, the next guy that hits on me, matter of fact, the next guy that talks to me,
Yeah.
he's getting these buns. So he's like, oh, this is my ticket.
Perfect.
So then he talks to her. Oh, what's going on, baby?
Oh my God.
So sad seeing you cry like
Oh my
this.
God.
You too beautiful to
Cringe.
be so sad.
Cringe.
And she's like, all right, whatever, he'll do.
And her friend is looking at her like, what? And she's like,
She's like, all right, like, whatever, like, I guess. So he's finally about to get some buns. And this is the part where I'm like,
this made me,
Kenny,
like, it was so stupid.
why? He's like, okay, yo, you want to go to the pool house? All right, perfect. Wait, hold on. I'll be right back.
I was like, why?
Like, why are you being right back? Like, bro, you came to this party to have sex with someone.
Right, and
you
she's
found
saying,
a woman
okay.
that wants to have sex with you, and now you're like,
He's
I gotta
all
go
right,
prepare.
I
Like,
gotta go to the bathroom.
you had all
Like,
day to prepare. That's why you showed up to the party.
He like actually contemplates putting on the condom and he's walking to the bathroom. He said, maybe I'll put it on before I get there. He's like, nah, that'd be too much. And I was like, what? Like, you're gonna just show up with a condom hanging on? Like,
He's like, I got one before. I got a double strap. I don't know where this girl been at.
So now he's in the bathroom and he's like, has the Kama Sutra book. And he has like one leg on a
Very ridiculous.
bathtub.
But wait, before he even gets to that bathroom though, remember, he's about to go into the main bathroom.
Oh, it's a line.
But the line is too long.
It's a line. Yeah.
And I'm like, bro, once you see that line,
just go right back.
that's a sign that means you don't need to go to the bathroom.
Right. Like, I'm thinking, like, if you have to, like, actually pee, then I get it. But it's like, he wasn't even going in there for that. So I was like, bro, what are you even doing right now?
He was trying to psych himself up. He was
you don't
trying
need
to
to do all that.
spray the Banaka in his mouth. He was trying to fumble through the Kama Sutra book, put on an extra
Make sure he had
condom.
enough. He had like 12 condoms on him.
How does that work though? Like,
Yeah, I
so
don't-
then when you're getting into it, you're making out, you start taking your clothes off, and then you're gonna be like, oh, let me grab a condom, and then she's gonna be like,
Why do you have?
you already have one on. And you're like, like, what do you say? Like, yeah.
I was
just being
prepared.
extra safe. It's like,
I was ready for you, baby.
like, bro, you had one on all night? Like, that's what she's gonna be wondering. Like, were you wearing that when you walked into the party? She's gonna be very confused. So I feel like his plan was just
Yeah,
off.
yeah.
He didn't have a good game plan. He finally was gonna get what he wanted, and it didn't come off for him.
fumbled it.
But yeah,
He fumbled the bag.
the humping the air in the bathroom to the Kama Sutra book was
Oh,
where
God.
I was just
There was a lot happening.
I was very sad for Kenny at that moment.
So then Kenny gets interrupted by Denise, who is the main character's best friend, who we mentioned earlier. She's coming in to use the bathroom, and when she opens the door, she sees him doing whatever the heck he's doing. And she's like, oh my God. And he's like, shut the door. She comes in and closes the door. He's like, no, you go on the other side of the door. And then she's like, huh, what? And of course, she's trying to open the door. She's pulling on it. He's pulling, and then the doorknob breaks off. And now they're both trapped in this upstairs bathroom.
Well, that was the whole thing. The owner of the house told him, I'll let you go upstairs, but only you can go up there. And make sure you don't close the door all the way because it's
funny.
There's
like,
something wrong with the
yeah.
lock.
Wait, let's pause and talk about this. So the quote unquote girl who's hosting this party, I thought she was somebody's mom because she looked so mature. And the dress she was wearing, like she was like a senator's wife. So I was like, I'm so confused as to how she graduated.
She was Angela from The Office.
Yeah. I was like, how did she graduate with these kids? Because she was way too posh and put together and just seemed very mature. I was like, and also, why would she want all these kids in her house? Like, don't touch that, don't break that. Like, it just didn't make sense. It didn't make any sense.
She thought it was going to be cool. Oh yeah, we'll have a graduation party. She didn't realize it was going to be a kegger with a live band, and I don't know.
Did she not go to school for 4 years with these kids?
Yeah, I don't know.
I was confused by that. But anyway, yes, now they're up there and they're pounding on the walls. But of course, it's a loud, raging party.
And they're upstairs.
No one can hear you.
Nobody else is upstairs because nobody else was allowed upstairs.
Mm-hmm. So now you're wrapped and you're trapped there for the rest of the night.
Yep.
And so the rest of their story, of course, is going to be going into their relationship. They used to have a friendship, apparently, back when they were really young. And now they don't even talk. And so we kind of get a nice little peek into, what happened in that friendship.
It was Kenny's fault.
Yeah, well, yeah. So apparently Denise's character, like, she says that, like, her parents didn't have a lot of money.
And we're, like, that made me assume that they probably grew up in an affluent space.
I mean, look at the house they were partying at.
Yeah.
The house is huge.
Yeah. Granted, she definitely had money,
Yeah.
whoever's house that was. But she's like, oh, like, I wasn't popular and my parents didn't have a lot of money and you didn't really want to hang out with me anymore because you was trying to be cool.
Mm-hmm.
So then it's like, oh, they probably grew up like most of the people probably had money and then she was kind of poor.
Yeah.
It wasn't popping to be her friend anymore. They get to junior high and Kenny basically
starts sitting
her
elsewhere. Yeah.
He's trying to be with the cool kids table in the lunchroom. And then he also contributes to her being teased. So he like takes it too far.
It's trash.
Yeah,
like,
he takes it too far.
But I feel like a lot of stories have this idea of the ex-friend that like it used to be close back in the day and something happens and then as they get older they kind of grow apart and then, there's always a backstory. I've seen that before. Like The Craft had a similar backstory of like people being friends and then them growing apart.
I think that's the second time The Craft has come up on this podcast. We're probably gonna have to.
I love that movie,
but I don't think I've ever seen it, so that might be a good movie for us to do. But how did you feel about Kenny? Because obviously Kenny's my guy. He's your guy. Kenny's kind of a dickhead, but I found myself rooting for him more than I was rooting for Preston. So take from that what you meant.
Okay, I could see that. I mean, Kenny, there's actually a part of it where Denise says to him in the bathroom when they're having this like heart-to-heart conversation. Like, he's like, you're not actually like different than, you're not better than any of us. And she's like, yeah, and you're not black. Like, you're white. And I laughed to myself.
Have you looked in the mirror?
Right. And it's like, why are you putting on this accent and this persona? And again, it's because like he wants to fit in and he wants to be cool, right? And so in his mind, he's like, this is what cool is. Like
black.
He's like, yeah.
Black people are pretty cool.
I mean, he's not wrong.
In his defense. Maybe that's why I liked him. But I mean, I guess that was the thing for me. Like with Kenny is like, Kenny, Preston, who's the other nerd's name? Will.
Oh, yeah, we got to talk about Will.
All of these characters, I mean, even Amanda to a certain extent, they're all like not really finding a way to be who they want to be.
Yeah.
And
it's high school.
It's high school. It's high school.
Yeah.
It's high school.
We're all lost souls.
They're all trying to figure out how to be themselves and still be accepted.
Right.
And I feel like that's why, even though Kenny is like a full-on clown and nobody takes him seriously and he leaves himself liable to be made fun of, I kind of was like, okay, like he's putting in a good college try. He's going about it the absolute wrong way. But I had more empathy for him than I did for like Preston, who was just like,
you hate him.
He was just a loser, and it was like, bro, like you're not even trying. Like at least Kenny's trying.
He tried.
Yeah, like he's trying to be cool. He's not cool.
No. I meant Preston tried, but we'll get to that. So yeah, even when Kenny like talking about like his super baggy like triple XL jeans and all that, like Denise says to him like, yeah, like your jeans are ridiculous, and he's like, no, but they're cool. Like, what about your space shoes, your space sneakers? He's like, yeah, but these are cool. Like in his mind, it's like all that he's putting on, it's like he thinks this is ideal. This is how you look cool. This is how you act.
This
cool.
is what cool is.
So I'm gonna
do
don these things to then become cool. Like that was the reasoning behind it. And yes, it wasn't only who he was, but he, in his mind, he thought, if I am who I actually am, just regular white kid in this rich neighborhood, like, okay.
Yeah, like I don't
What's so
stand out,
special about that?
And I'm not gonna be popping.
There's also a school that's majority white.
Right.
So you got to think like,
this is how I can be different.
How I can be, yeah, it's how I can be different, and I can appeal to a different crowd. And he had two friends who kind of felt the same way. So he had a little crew.
Yeah.
He wasn't, I mean, honestly,
he was clicked up more than Preston was.
And more than Amanda.
And more than Amanda.
As far as having real friends.
And definitely more than Denise.
Oh, well. Well, Denise. So, yeah, I mean, I can see the empathy for him. I could. And at the end, he did get the buns. Surprisingly, from Denise. Well, okay, so that scene. Okay, so that scene. So
that's my guy.
So they hook up.
I gotta go with Kenny, man. That's
and Denise says to him, "Just so you know, like the next time, like we'll get better." And he's like, "What? What do you mean?" And she's like, "It's not usually that quick." And he's like, "What? You bitch!" Like, and I was like, "What?" Again, the bitch.
Oh, yeah. We're seeing a trend.
Does not age well.
We're seeing a trend.
He gets mad, of course. You know, the male fragility. Like, you know how guys are, ladies. And men. And others. So
I couldn't tell if you were talking to me or just talking to the audience. It's pretty sure you're talking to the audience.
Yes. So, you know, like, men can get very sensitive when it comes to certain things. And so he gets all upset and, like, off in a puff and, like, how do you know it wasn't you? And she's like, what? What are you talking about? And she's like, you only had sex, like, one other time, right? Now you know all about sex. And she's like, I'm not saying like I'm an expert. I'm just saying like it could, you know, that was quick, you know. He gets mad. They end up having this whole thing and they have a fight about it. And it just goes to, I mean, of course he's young, he's immature. It's his first time. So in his mind, like, oh yeah, that was banging. And, you know, she's a girl, so first time for guys. But
I also feel like he wasn't even like, yo, that was banging, because even when they show like the post sex,
and both their faces are just
they're both kind of looking at each other like he looks as like not as confident as she does.
That's fair.
I feel like he knows that it didn't go that well, but it's like I guess I got what I wanted, but like I had it going differently in my head.
See, when I first saw the look, I thought they both like regretted it, but I mean, even when she made her comment, I don't think she was doing it to be vindictive or to be like... She was
trying to make him feel better,
was
but
trash.
she made him feel worse.
Right. She was trying to be like, oh yeah, next time it'll be, you know, a little bit longer or whatever. And he was like, what? And then, you know, it kind of escalated from there. So let's take a pause from these characters and let's talk about William, what's his name? Lichter. William is the nerdy character. Lichter.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Will.
So his quote in the yearbook was, all great spirits have always encountered violent opposition from mediocre minds. I liked that.
It's giving talented 10th. it's giving Du Bois.
But yeah, I mean, like he's the nerdy kid. He has his two nerdy friends. Again, he has his clique, and he's been bullied by Mike essentially his entire high school career, right? I mean, he tells stories about all these different times when like Mike does things to him.
Mike tripped him. Mike took his science project and threw it out the window.
Right. He like put something on his pants to make it look like he pooed himself.
Yeah.
It's like Mike's juvenile. He's a jerk.
Yeah, Mike is just
And so William and his two friends have this plan where they're basically going to embarrass Mike at this party. Do you want to go over the plan?
So Will's plan is to wait until Mike and one of his jock buddies come outside. He enlists his two friends to hide on the roof, and when they see Mike and his friend, they're to jump off the roof, tackle them to the ground, knock them out with rags that are filled with chloroform, strip their clothes, and then take incriminating nude pictures of them so that it looks like Mike is gay with one of his jock friends.
And again, this is also something that does not age well because, I mean, I feel like now, like, more gay athletes are coming out and it's not as frowned upon as it was in the 90s, that's for sure.
Sure. Still not happening very often.
Yes, but...
The majority of athletes are gay athletes are definitely still in the closet, but
Yeah, but I also feel like it wouldn't have been as big of a deal today as it would have been in the 90s. That's for sure. Like,
not even close.
so that's the whole plan. And so I'm not. So basically, they had William going into the party, like kind of like like as a mole, like incognito, to go in, pretend like you're enjoying the party, have a couple of beers. His friends are concerned, like we don't want you to get drunk, do anything illegal because you're underage. And he's like, no, I have this thing with me that I can like make sure that I don't get too drunk.
Yeah.
And so he goes into the party and he has a couple of beers, and then he ends up getting completely wasted.
He says, something's wrong with the beer, guys. It doesn't taste so good.
They're like, it tastes like beer to me. And he's like, oh, yeah. So he ends up drinking. He like,
my man gets turned up. Will is litty.
He ends up getting on stage during karaoke because it's a song that he loves.
It's not even karaoke though. It's just some guy just starts playing the music because the band gets in a fight, so the band doesn't even start playing.
Oh,
Some guy just goes on stage with a boombox. He's like, "This is my jam. I love this song." So he just starts playing it, and then everybody's just looking at him like, "What are you doing?" And then Will's like, "Oh, I know this record. One of the guys I used to tutor used to make me listen to it all the time." So he jumps up, and then he just jumps to the stage and just starts singing along to the song.
And so at first people are looking at him like, bro, what is he doing? He's insane. This is embarrassing. But as he keeps going, people start getting into it, and they're like, oh, like, he's rocking out. He knows all the words. Like,
he's so cute.
And then at some point, like, he ends up ripping his shirt off of his body. And I always wonder, like, how is it in these movies that these shirts rip so easily? Because if I stood there and tried with all my might to rip a shirt off of my body, I could not do it. I don't think I could. But with one rip, he just tears it open. He's going crazy. The crowd loves it so much. He is able to successfully crowd surf.
Yeah.
I mean, which was huge back then. He jumps off. They're passing him around the room. And then at the conclusion of his performance, girls are like fawning over him. Like, oh my God, he's so hot. So in this party, they have a make-out room. Okay? And
Well, they always do in these movies.
So let me pause. Have you ever been to a party with a make-out room? Or a make-out party?
I mean, I haven't personally, but I don't know. I don't know if this is like a thing that happens at white schools. Like, I don't really know exactly what this is.
So, I have been to a party. So, all right, mom and dad, don't listen to this part. I have been to a party. I was in 7th grade, and I went to a friend's house for a party, and so all the kids were downstairs in the basement. The parents did not come down to the basement the whole night.
Of course not.
And at a certain point, the lights definitely went out, and it was definitely like, you can make out if you want to. I did not. I was a good girl. But it was definitely like a make-out, like low-key make-out party. And I was like, whoa, like.
Wait, so then what happens? What is everybody who's not making
music
out?
Playing. So it's like, it's not just like it's silent and people just making out. Like, it's music playing. So like, there's still food and chips and drink. Like, people, you can still dance or whatever.
And then like, what is everybody else doing while the couples are making out? Then everybody else is just like, I guess I'm gonna get more chips. Like, what?
You're still talking to people or dancing or whatever. Like, it's still a regular party, but it's just like, like, you can make out here.
Oh, okay.
Like, it's one of those, like, the parents will not come down here.
Right, yeah. This is a safe space for, making out.
The parents are not going to come down. Like,
it's a safe makeout space.
I was like, whoa.
That's what you said?
In my head. I was trying to play it cool because I was trying to play it cool.
Wow, that's a lot of kissing going on.
As I ate my Cheetos.
Right.
But yeah, so all that to say, he went to this makeout room with. So actually, he was supposed to go in with two girls, and one girl goes in. He walks in behind her. As the second girl is coming in, a third girl swoops in and closes the door on the second girl, and second girl gets left out. And I was like, yo, Will had bodies, like girls out here fighting to get with him.
Will was the man for one night. Will was not the man for 4 years, but yeah, after graduation, he got it popping.
And he also had a nice little bonding sesh with Mike.
He thought he did.
During the session, it was nice. They both were wasted, and he basically. So before we get there, let's kind of talk about the scene where Mike confronts Amanda at the party in front of everyone.
Mike or Preston?
Mike confronts Amanda.
Oh, Mike. Okay, yeah.
So he's at the party, and this is after he's realizing, like, A, when I go to college, I'm not going to be popping, and B, no other girl really wants me. So now he's like, I got a plan C is, I got to go back to Amanda and get her to come back to me. So he's like,
and also none of my boys are leaving their girlfriends.
Yeah.
So I'm just gonna be single by myself, which defeats the
lame.
whole purpose. Like, I need to have my crew with me. Otherwise, I'm not even really Mike. Like, I'm not Mike Dexter without my tag-alongs who are validating all of my nonsense.
Exactly. So he's like yelling at Amanda. He's like, hey, Amanda. He's like, you know what? I'm gonna give you another chance. And it's like, what?
Like, you never asked for another chance, my man?
And she's like, wait, what are you talking about? And he's like, yeah, like, we should get back together. I've been thinking about it. And she's like, what? It's like, yeah, we should talk. And she's like, talk about what? Like, what? And she's like, honestly confused. She's like, what are we talking about? And he's like, maybe we should get back together. Maybe I moved too fast, or I'm gonna give you another chance. And she's like, I don't really know what you're talking about, and I'm actually good. And now he starts to get upset because, of course, it's like, how dare.
And also, he's being embarrassed in front of the whole school.
Yeah.
So.
Well, he tried to talk to her outside, and she was like, I don't even want to talk to you.
Yeah,
so,
I have
like,
nothing. Yeah.
I'm rapping. So everyone's watching, and they're like, oh, like, turn the music down. Like, what's going on? You know how it is.
Yeah, Mike and Amanda.
Yeah. So everybody's looking on, like, drooling, like, what is happening? And so, he's trying to get her to come back. She doesn't really want any part of it. And so he's like, so that's it? Like, we're just done? And she's like, yeah, I guess we're done.
Bro, you dumped me. Like, do you remember?
So then he's like, well, who's going to want you now? And then she's like, someone will. Okay, we gotta explain the someone will. But at that point, like, again, we've been going back and forth, but the whole not aging well, I was like, this whole idea of, like, if a guy doesn't want, like, she needs a guy to want her, right? Without a guy wanting her, then it's like she's invalidated.
Yeah.
Like, who are you?
And not even just that. It's also like, because I'm the man, if I don't want you, then nobody else will. Because the only reason that you have sauce in this school
me.
is because you were attached to me. And now that you're not attached to me anymore, you have no sauce.
Which isn't true because she's the it girl and she's still hot. But
right.
But anyway, so I was kind of like, all right, this is stupid. The whole idea of like, oh, there's no guy who wants her. So now she's, just out here floating around. So what happens is, before this part actually happened, Preston had this letter he had written to Amanda, and his plan was to give it to her at this party. And in this letter to Amanda, he professes his love for her, tells her how he's been pining over her for 4 years, which is all so pathetic in my opinion.
The fates of the Pop-Tarts.
God have mercy. Like how like she's the one for him, and he's known it from the first moment he saw her on those steps. And, basically just pours his heart out in this letter. So there's a scene where Amanda's at the party. She's walking around, and her second cousin is like trying to console her. And while they're talking in this room,
trying to do more than that.
The second cousin like lays his hand on her leg, reaches over, and starts to kiss her. So of course Preston happens to peek his head in
without consent. Let's add.
Oh God, yes. Yeah. Preston happens to poke his head in at that exact moment. He sees them making out. He's like heartbroken, and like he's just like, oh my God, this is it for me. So he leaves the party. Doesn't even tell his friend Denise that he's leaving, by the way.
Yeah. He convinces Denise to come with him to the party and then leaves without her. He hasn't. I don't think he didn't mention or talk to her again really until like the end of the movie.
He's trash.
Yeah.
So he leaves out, and he's like, "Oh, that's it. Like my life is over." Of course, he's an angsty teen. He like takes the letter outside and throws it in the trash, and he leaves out the party. So at some point, the letter falls out of the trash. It's on the floor. Someone has gum on their shoe. They step on the letter. They bring it into the house. And there's this whole camera work, the scene going on where like you see the letter floating throughout the house.
The letter floats back into the house miraculously,
right?
And ends up on the table right in front of where Amanda's sitting,
on top of some peanuts.
Yeah, so that she, of course, there's always like a bowl of peanuts.
Never eat the peanuts.
First of all, I've never been at a house party that just had a random bowl of peanuts. I've also never been at a bar that had a random bowl of peanuts.
I've seen it. It's disgusting.
They always have those in movies. I don't see that when I go to the bar.
I've seen peanuts at the bar. It's disgusting. Don't ever.
It sounds awful.
Don't ever put your hand on him.
Well, let me talk about not Mike, for Preston for a moment, because I feel like I've already talked about how I didn't enjoy Preston. I think the other part about Preston that offended me was
Offended? Wow.
the fact that it's just another reason that I just didn't like this guy. It's like, bro, you're coming to this party to talk to this girl that you haven't talked to for 4 years. You're finally going to try to, like, tell her how you feel, see what can happen before you go out of town. Yo, his fit was so trash, bro. Like, this was the thing. Like,
Wait, this is what offended you was his outfit?
his fit was so trash. Like, he came, every time he was on, every time he was in this movie, like, every time it was one of the Preston scenes, I'm looking at him like, yo, this is how you came to this
But wasn't
party?
that the look, like the short sleeve with the long sleeve underneath it? That was a whole
But,
wave
yo,
in the 90s.
I don't know, bro. Like, yes, it was, but his fit was trash. He had on, like, a white and yellow long sleeve ringer t-shirt.
Yeah, okay.
Like a baseball shirt. But then he's wearing it under, like, a dark blue button-up with, like, it's like bubbles.
Yeah.
It was like bubbles on the shirt. The white and yellow shirt that he's wearing underneath it is tucked into his khakis.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just like, bro, like, this can't be the outfit that you approach Amanda Beckett with. Like, this is not it, bro. Like, every time he got every time he was on the camera, I'm just like, yeah, nah, bro.
What should he have worn? Kenny's goggles?
No, not the Kenny goggles, but like something. There's got to be some in between. There's got to be a better outfit to wear to approach the girl of your dreams. That couldn't have been, because that's the other thing is like, if I know I'm finally going to talk to this girl that I've been scared to talk to for 4 years, I should show up with my best fit. That was not his best fit.
He said, "Come as you are."
Nah,
like,
dog.
he said, if you can't take me at my worst, you don't deserve me at my best.
If you can't take me,
That's what he said.
If you can't take me in my bubble shirt,
That's what he said. You don't deserve me.
My bubble button up.
You don't deserve me in my tux, baby.
And that's exactly why she told his ass off. Because she saw them bubbles.
No.
She saw them bubbles and she was like, hell no.
That's not what happened. What happened was, after she finishes telling off Mike, and she's like, bruh, I don't need you, basically. She's walking out. And now all of these men are like, oh, she's officially single. So they all start approaching her. Like,
hey, Amanda, what's up?
Hey, Amanda, love to see you naked. Hey, Amanda, one time when we danced, remember that time we danced together in 10th grade? Yeah, that was fun. I had a boner the whole time. Hey, Amanda. Like, so they're all saying all this gross, disgusting stuff to her. So she's like, I'm like, yo, these guys, again, high school boys, very realistic. And she's like, y'all are all trash. So then Preston, of course, comes up to her and starts talking about, from the first time I met you, I felt something special, blah, blah. And she's like, okay, just stop right there.
Enough.
So at that point, she had like 5 guys hit on her, tell her how hot she was.
In the span of 30 seconds.
Yeah, she's just like, it's too much. Like, get away. She tells him off. So that's really what happened.
I think the shirt had a lot to do with it too, personally.
So now he's like, So going back to Preston, this is a scene you actually we had not discussed. So we briefly mentioned the angel exotic dancer that he finds. So after he leaves the party, the first time when he leaves Denise there, he goes and he's driving down the street, turns on the radio, and he hears this Barry Manilow song called Mandy.
Oh yeah.
And in his mind, in Preston's mind, he's like, this is a sign. It's fate telling me that like I should get with Amanda. So earlier on in the movie, the song came on and he was talking to Denise about it. And he says, oh, this song right here, this is fate. This means that, I should talk to Amanda. And she's like, yo, Mandy has nothing to do with anything. And he's like, I'm pretty sure he wrote the song about a woman named Amanda. And she's like, no, it's not. It's probably about like someone's pet or something. And he's like, no, it's not.
About his dog.
And she's like, no, it's not. No, it's not. So as he's driving on the radio, basically they're saying like, oh, like we have Barry Manilow here in the studio today. So if you have any questions for him, like call in. It's his birthday, so we're playing his song Mandy every hour on the hour. So he's like, oh, I'm about to get to a payphone. I'm about to call a radio station, talk to Barry Manilow, ask him if the song Mandy is about a dog or a girl. And if he said it's about a girl, then I know it's a sign that I should go talk to Amanda again. Like, what?
Huge loser. That's all I got to say about that. Huge loser. Huge. I got nothing for Preston, bro.
I was like, bro, this guy is so delusional. I could not
But
understand.
it was all like, if the fate allows. Like, it was so like everything else. And I feel like I'm jumping ahead a little bit, but we're also like getting close to the hour mark. So, but when I think about the angel and the Jenna Elfman character who meets him at the payphone, and they have a whole conversation, and she talks about how she had a crush on Scott Baio, and she finally
Who's the
met
boss?
him, and she didn't have a chance to say what she wanted. And she's basically saying to him, like, yo,
I totally realize, fate. There is fate, but it only takes you so far because once you're there, it's up to you to make it happen.
You are so definitely right.
I know.
I feel like that was one of the central themes of the movie of like, yes, fate or whatever you want to call it can exist up to a certain point, but fate is not going to create your own serendipity. Like, you still have to step in and take some action. And I feel like that was indicative by his action at the end of the movie, where instead of getting on the train, he goes to talk to Amanda. Although
that scene really
the fate,
blew me.
quote unquote, is her showing up in the first place, because actually he didn't really have. So basically, at the end of the movie, like, he's gonna go to college the next day, and after he professes his love to Amanda, she reads the letter. She sees his name in the yearbook after she already cusses him out, and realizes, oh, this is the guy that wrote me this nice letter. I shouldn't have cussed him out. He's a nice guy. Blah 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 blah. And she apparently like goes to his house,
his dad.
and his parents tell him his parents are not there to see him off. Also,
Yeah.
he's leaving for college. He's just there by himself, so that's interesting. But she shows up to the train station to see if she could talk to him one last time.
This is very 90s as well. The
ridiculous.
final running through the airport before the plane takes off.
Yeah, he's an 18-year-old kid going away to college by himself, and his parents don't even see him
I think
off.
he was going to like some pre-college, like something before
Oh,
college.
right. He
Like
said
there was
he
some
going to,
program
like,
he was going
a writing workshop.
But either way, he's still going away for a few weeks.
So he had a fair amount of bags on him. So he was going away for a while. She shows up. She's like, oh, your letter was so beautiful, blah, 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 blah. This is not really the right time for us to get in a relationship since you're leaving. I guess it's time for me to be single for a while. And he's like, yeah blah, blah, blah. And then she's like, well,
right, later.
Enjoy your time. And then she's about to walk away, and then he's about to leave. And then he's like, wait, I have to listen to the angel who told me, like, I have to make my move. And then he, like, drops his bags and runs back over there, and he's like, wait, like, we should stay in touch.
I'm like, you're not afraid of people stealing your luggage?
Nah.
That's the first thing I thought about.
Yeah, apparently not.
Oh, okay.
And then they hold and they embrace and they kiss. And then the caption, you know, these movies always end with what happened to the characters in the future, and they say that they stayed in touch, and Amanda wrote him a letter every day while he was gone.
Vomit,
and
vomit,
they're still
vomit,
together.
Vomit.
Yeah.
Which it's completely, I mean, talking about suspending your disbelief, because...
I mean, it'll be no surprise to anyone listening that I also hated the ending of this film.
Yeah, these rewinds are not going to be very high. But yeah, I just felt like, bro, y'all are going away to college. Like, you're not going to remember who Amanda is in 4 years. Like, let's be very honest.
I mean, this guy would.
Well,
he held on to this fantasy of this woman for 4 years. He finally got to kiss her. That's exceeding anything I would have expected for Preston going into the movie.
That's true. However, the idea that they're going to stay together, like, we have no idea where are they both going to college. Are they anywhere near each other? Are they going to see each other? Like,
well, remember her yearbook. They had like these yearbook snapshots for all the main characters to show where they were heading and what their favorite quote was. And her future plans were undecided. So we actually don't know if she went to college at all. She didn't have anything indicated in the yearbook. And I think an interesting thing about Amanda's character is that we as an audience, but even like we as in the audience of the other members of her school community, don't really know anything about her
all.
other than she's popular and she's cute. So I think her being undecided was also supposed to also kind of be like a double entendre for
Her life.
she's also undecided about like who she even really is, and she hasn't had an opportunity to find herself in high school because who she was decided for her before she had a chance to decide it for herself.
So on that on that vein, wouldn't it make more sense for her to be single right now?
Yes.
Why am I jumping out of bed with Mike to jump in with this guy? Like,
Yeah.
you actually do need to be by yourself. This is not healthy.
Ideally, yeah.
Oh, okay. But it's happily ever after.
Right.
Oh.
And I think that's also like when you talk about things that don't age well and we talk about the 90s compared to the 2020s, if you think about like how they handled the whole love storyline in like Abbott Elementary.
Oh,
Of
yeah.
like, you know, like Quinta's character just got out of a long relationship that was kind of toxic and she meets this new guy and that's not really working, but she really wants to be with Mr. Eddie.
They
and
would
then
be
Mr.
so-
Eddie finally confesses that he wants to be with her and she's like,
Yeah.
wait, like I actually just need to do me. Like I actually really like you too, but this is just not the moment.
Yeah.
That never happened in the 90s.
Yeah, that's true.
Like that would not happen in a 90s
That's
sitcom,
true.
and it certainly wouldn't happen in the 90s rom-com.
No. Because what kind of ending is that?
Right.
You're still single.
And I feel like nowadays we can appreciate a main character who decides to just be by herself. And I don't know that we had like the emotional intelligence at that time because it just would have come off like a bad ending.
Yeah, it's like, so that's it?
It's like, what? They don't end up together?
He didn't get the girl?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. He's a nice guy. Dear God.
Things that don't age well. Anything else that you had that like didn't age well? I mean, there's a big one. I don't know if you have it, but it was like it jumped out at me.
Let's see. I'm trying to see what we didn't discuss yet because, oh God, this is a big one.
Yeah.
So when Mike is talking to Amanda,
Yeah, that's the
and
one.
he's basically like trying to get her to come back, and she's like, "Nah, I'm good off of that." And then she leaves off, and then someone basically yells the F word, and
Not that F word, the other one.
no, like the derogatory one, the homophobic one, basically calling Mike that because he didn't get the girl, and everyone's like, ah, like hysterically laughing, like, oh,
It's the big climax of the film.
oh my
It's
God.
the big climax of the film.
I was
Is
like, oh
everyone
my
laughing
God.
at him because someone called him the F word.
I was like, oh my God. But again, like at that time, like that was
1998.
considered funny.
1998.
Like, yeah, we were in middle school at the time.
Oh man,
Yeah.
they got you. You're such a
Yeah.
loser, man.
Yeah.
You're
Say-
such a loser,
yes,
Mike.
yeah. Saying that, or saying gay and not meaning it to mean happy and fun, it was like, oh, this is hilarious. They just called you that, you know? And I was like, oh my God, this would never happen now. But yeah, that was a glaring one. That was definitely hard to miss.
I mean, I think the other thing that didn't age well for me is just the 90s-ness of how everyone in the school fits so neatly into a stereotype.
Yeah.
Like you had, you know, Kenny's the wigger and Mike is the dumb jock who bullies the nerd, who's the valedictorian, and, you know, everybody kind of fit into these very neat stereotypes. Also mind-boggling to me that Amanda sits next to Preston in class and has absolutely no idea who he is.
I mean, that was freshman year of high school, though. Maybe like it was one class.
Well, that was a thing because yes, they sat together freshman year, but also when she gets the letter and she's like, Preston, who is this guy? She's going around the party asking people who Preston is.
Yeah.
And then somebody says like, oh, you don't know who Preston is? Like you sit next to him in chemistry or something. So it's like, yo, you have class with
So
this
currently,
kid in senior
yeah,
year.
that's bad.
You had class with him for an
Yeah.
entire year and you have no idea
That
who
makes
he
her
is.
look pretty bad. Yeah.
So then it's like, oh, like it's very 90s where they just assume that like the popular kids live in this bubble where they don't
That's all
know
they
that
know.
anyone else exists. Everyone sees them, but they don't see anyone else. And it's like, how could you actually just like not know who this man's name is? You might not like know who he is, like in terms of like you're not friends with him, but like you have no idea who Preston is.
Yeah.
You have no idea. You went to school with him for 4 years. You sat next to him in class twice.
Yeah. That's pretty bad.
It was like, yeah, this is crazy. But also, very like 90s stereotype.
Wait, so what about the it's actually kind of funny, but so they have this exchange student who's at the school from another country, and so they're trying to teach him to say certain things in English because they think it would be funny.
You always teach the foreign exchange student the dirty stuff.
So the two lines they teach him is, "I am a sex machine," which is like, why was that even a phrase? Like, sex machine is just a very 90s phrase. To be a sex machine.
Right, yeah. Kindergarten cop. Yeah.
Our mom says that our dad is a real sex machine.
Thanks for the tip.
And then the second one was, "Would you like to touch my penis?"
Right, of course.
So the first time they said it, I'm like, all right, this is juvenile and really dumb. but there's this scene where Preston is basically, so he's telling us as the audience how he meets Amanda, but he's basically telling the exchange student the story at the pool. So he's telling the whole thing. He like pours his heart out, and he's like, "Dude, like, what do you think I should do?" And the guy's like, "Would you like to touch my penis?"
It's ridiculous. It's so bad.
And it was so bad, but I was dying. I was like, "This is so stupid."
Oh God,
but
I hate it.
But I was laughing because it was like the first time I said it, it was like, this is really juvenile. But again, just the timing of it, I think the comedic timing of it was really funny on that second go around. So I enjoyed that. I did want to correct myself because when the angel exotic stripper mentioned Scott Baio, I said, "Who's the boss?" It's actually Charles in Charge.
Well,
I mean, the shows are
that's the same show, really. But fine.
It's Charles in Charge.
I wouldn't have corrected you.
I just want to make sure that I corrected myself.
I mean, speaking of the angel, I mentioned that quote that she had about, like, you know, fate takes you to a certain point. Were there any other major themes that you pulled out of this movie? Before we get to the rewinds.
Oh, good Lord. That was really the main ones. I was kind of mad that you brought it up. To be honest,
I mean, it was pretty on the nose. It wasn't any major sleuthing that I did to figure that one out.
I mean, I was like, that was the main one that I was thinking about. I mean, I will say the one thing would be that, like, high school doesn't last forever, and like who you are in high school is not necessarily who you'll be when you leave out. Like, just thinking about Mike's realization of like him thinking like, oh, life, I'm always going to be the popular guy who can do whatever they want, and he's learning like, you go to college, you're about to be small potatoes. You are no longer the big man on campus. No one's going to know or care who you are as a freshman. So that was very interesting to see that it's like, you think when you're in high school, it's like, it's all you can see. So if you're someone who's being bullied or someone who has no friends, you're thinking like, this is life. But it's like, it's really not, because once once college starts, man, people reinvent themselves.
Oh, yes.
Because no one knows who you are. No one knows.
For better or for worse,
right.
People reinvent themselves.
No one knows who you are. No one knows your high school history. Like, you're free to, either really truly be who you are or try to figure out who you are. So I liked that idea of like,
or create an alter ego and run down that path.
I mean, if you like to, I guess you can do that. So yeah, I like the idea of like just knowing that just because, you spent your whole college year being X, Y, or Z. Although, this is kind of sad. So we mentioned it briefly that Mike and William had this nice little bonding moment when they were drunk. And but by the end of the episode, William thinks like, oh, like Mike and I bonded, like now we're friends. And he goes to the diner and he sees Mike surrounded with all his little goons. And he's like, hey, Mike, let's scoot over and go sit down. And he's like, hey, what are you doing here?
Whoa.
like Mike is offended and appalled. Like,
you think you can sit down at our booth? We're at the diner here. We're trying to eat.
No, his friends are looking around like, what is this nerd doing?
Oh my God, nerd. Total nerd. Get out of here, Urkel.
Loser.
They call him Urkel.
They did call him Urkel. So I was like, oh, bro. But then at the end, the recap, they say that he ends up going to Harvard and like becoming like
a millionaire. And now he married a supermodel.
Yeah. So of course it's the come up for him. It's like, the nerds.
But that aligns with what you were saying. It's like the whole concept of who you are doesn't necessarily need to be who you become.
Yeah.
And, you might be popping in high school, but that is not indicative. And you might be a nerd in high school, and that's also not indicative.
All right. So ready for those rewinds?
Yeah. I mean, if we're going out of 5 rewinds, I'm probably giving this like a 2 rewinds. I'm giving it 2 rewinds because I like. For me, this is number one. It's just not a very good movie. I also feel like when I think about like the teen movies in the 90s, you know, you had American Pie, you had 10 Things I Hate About You, you had Bring It On, Never Been Kissed, Save the Last Dance, Love and Basketball. Like, there's a lot of high school movies that had
like the
romantic
90s,
themes,
early 2000s.
and most of them I feel like are better than this one.
I agree.
Like, it just didn't really hit. I also feel like the Preston Amanda love story was not one that I could connect with at any point. I was way more invested, like I said, in Kenny. I wanted to see what was going to happen with him and Denise. I wanted to see what was going to, like, that. I was more interested in their scenes stuck in the bathroom.
Let's be honest. I think you just wanted to see whether or not the Karma Sutra book would come back. Is that what it was? That's what it was.
That's not what I was saying. I'm not saying you're wrong, but that's also not what I was saying.
Okay.
But yeah, like when the movie would shift to them being stuck in the bathroom, I was more invested and I cared more than I did about the actual main characters.
Yeah.
And I feel like they made Amanda was just kind of like a silhouette of like this person who could be whoever you wanted her to be. You could project whatever you wanted onto the character, but she wasn't really fully fleshed out. And that also just made the main storyline fall a little flat for me. This is not a movie like that I would necessarily recommend for people to watch, especially, and it's not a movie that I would necessarily feel compelled to like rewatch. So for me, I'm gonna go with a 2.
Yikes. So I'm realizing that the only other movie so far you've given it to is You Got Mail.
Yeah, I think you got a 2.5.
You bumped it up to 2.5, but
also, I mean, those are similar films in the fact that like there's this BS love story that I'm not invested in and I don't believe in. Yeah. I didn't believe in the Joe Fox love story. I thought he was trash. And in this case, it's not necessarily that Preston or Amanda are trash, but it's just like there's nothing to indicate that they should be together.
Yeah.
Other than like he wrote her a nice letter.
Right.
He's not Mike.
Yeah.
Like that's right. The only thing about Preston. Like and honestly, like I'm also still really offended by the bubble shirt. So that's another reason why I'm just like, no, you don't get Jennifer Love Hewitt,
not in that fit.
Like not in that outfit. Like at least come correct. So yeah, it's a 2 rewinds.
I will say, so this is like talking about the fits and all that. Her hair was glorious.
Oh yeah,
like it
had so much bounce.
Whoever did Jennifer Love Hewitt's hair in that movie deserves a raise because I kept looking at it like that hair has so much body.
Yeah,
it was fantastic.
Yaddy.
Describing hair, that's a new one. So I have to agree. This is the lowest ranking I've given so far. It's 2.
It's gotta be a 2.
I mean, I was thinking about going back to the whole idea of if I was flipping through the channel on TV or going through the streaming services to see what was available to play, I'm not clicking on this movie. I'm just not. If I see it on, I'm going to skip right over it. It's just, it's not very good. It's not very good. Like, I don't really know what else you want me to say. It's just not very good. I don't want to belabor the point. But I just don't think this is something where I'm going to be like, yeah, let me go back and watch this part over. I was hysterically laughing. The funniest part, like I said, was the exchange student saying, would you like to touch my penis? Like, why is that the funniest part of the movie? That's terrible. But that was it for me. The rest of it was just kind of like, all right, this is, all right, it's cringe. Why'd they say that word? Why is he? And then there's one point where one of Seth Green's boys sees a bunch of black guys, and he's like, "What up, my niggas?" And I'm like, "What?"
Oh, yeah, I forgot about that.
I was like, "What?"
I forgot.
And then the black guys start running after him. It's supposed to be funny, I guess. He'd be like, "Oh, he said the N word," like not really the N word, but nigga, but whatever. It's like you're white.
They chase after him, and then he runs out of the party,
hiding in a bush. Like I think they're gone. Huh? And I'm like, "It's supposed to be funny."
Guess they weren't feeling that,
right? And then it's like, bro, like, again, you're white. You can never say that.
Nah. Yeah,
So, it just didn't age. It didn't hit.
Nah, this movie didn't hit.
I didn't appreciate it. So yeah, that's a 2 for me.
But we still want you to give us your recommendations for other 90s movies because, there's a lot of movies that came out in the 90s and there's plenty of films that we will give different ratings that might be higher than A2.
That is true. So, just want to remind you guys, again, if you want to send us an email, it is rewindrewatch1990s@gmail.com. Hit us up at Twitter or on IG at RR90spod.
And our contact information is also in the bio for the podcast. So if you're listening to this, you should be able to read it. And
all right, guys. Well, I guess
we'll wrap it up there.
We will talk to you later. And in the meantime, go ahead and read up on that Karma Sutra, okay?
There it is. Later.
Later.